You know, I know a lot of you guys out there, you have problems with the idea of understanding strong references and weak references, retain cycles, and how they work, right? And the real problem is no matter where you go online, you cannot find, I know I can't find, you cannot find a good explanation. Why? Because almost nobody really understands object ownership. They don't understand how to explain the relationship between the parent object and the child object, and the property of the child object now needing to have the weak reference in order to break the retained cycle. But I'm going to make it clear for you today. I'm going to do it better than anyone else on YouTube. So you need to stay tuned and check this video out. Okay, so let's discuss retained cycles. So we have to start with the concept of ARC, which is automatic reference counting. Basically, this is a feature of Swift that keeps account of references. Now, what are references? References are, for example, you create an object, like I'm doing right here, and you set one of the properties. You say, for example, the tenant property to John, which is a person object. This is a reference, right? And of course, you have situations where John's apartment is set to unit 4A. This, in turn, creates another reference right here. However, when you try to, if one of them isn't weak, what you have is a strong reference, right? And what happens is this. You run this, and boom, as you can see, neither one of these are being deinitialized. This isn't being deinitialized, and this isn't being deinitialized when it's after you set them and they're no longer in use, right? Well, in the real world, when you do this in an app, you're basically using up more memory than you have to, and this can lead to issues like causing your app to run slower or even crash. It's inefficient programming and it's bad, and it leads to poor performance. So you want to alleviate strong references. One way to alleviate strong references is by setting one of the references to weak. Now, but in order to do that, you have to understand the concept of object ownership. So that means in a relationship between two objects, one object owns the other. So we're gonna go through this scenario, okay? You have a class with a person. It has a name and an apartment object, right? Name is given to your object when it's initialized, right? However, apartment is nil, and this needs to be set after it's initialized. Then you have apartment. Apartment is an object that the unit is set during initialization, but the tenant person is set after. Okay. And as you can see, when we run these, we create these, we set them, right? Person is John Doe, the apartment is 4A. And as a result, unit tenant is set to John. John.apartment is set to unit 4A. And after it runs, neither one of these are deinitialized. They are trapped in memory, right? So in our ARC, our automatic reference counting, there's a count of 2, okay? And so what we want to do is we want to release these from memory. Now, let's go ahead and find out which one is the owner. You find that by looking at the relationship. This is how I find it. And of course, you validate it by having your deinitializers print out what is deinitialized. Okay? And you're gonna do it like this. Our units for a tenant, okay? This is the apartment, the unit. This is the person, the tenant, okay? Now we have our object and it is set to John. So this apartment is the owner, But now John, we're setting John apartment to unit 4A. So now we have a circular reference, but this is the owner because we set it there first. And you can use this as a rule of thumb in this type of circular reference or this type of retained cycle, right? So as a result, John's apartment, which references unit 4A, must be set to weak because this unit 4A is the owner. Apartment must be set to weak. So the apartment, the person, apartment. And how I set this to weak, I just add the weak right there. And now let's run this again. And as you see, apartment 4A is deinitialized, you know? And if we were to do this the other way, I'm going to go ahead and comment this out and uncomment this. And remember, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, John equals nil is what deinitializes it, right? Oh, I almost forgot that. Yes, in order to deinitialize it, you must set it to nil. You must set it to nil. However, if this isn't weak in this circular reference, and we've set this to nil, guess what? All right, yes, this is deinitialized. Why? Because we immediately set it, and it deinitializes. But if we do this right here, and we run this, it's not automatically deinitialized. Okay? And again, you must find this is the child, this is the parent. This is the child apartment, the apartment set to weak. Okay? Remove this. Now if I come here, I'm going to undo this. And we're going to do this. Right? We still have a circular reference. But now John is the the person is the parent. Okay? We run this. And now it's not deinitializing again. Because the tenant of the apartment object, right? The John, the person, is the parent. The unit is the child. And the tenant must be now be weak. As you can see, boom. So in this type of situation, we must go in and understand which is the parent, which is the child. And again, how you understand what is the parent is when you first, after you initialize both of your objects, which one references, which one sets to a property first. Okay? The one who is set to the property first, this is the parent. Then the property of the child has a circular reference back to the parent. Okay? So if this is the parent, this is the child, this tenant's property must be set to weak. That's how it works. So in this situation right here, where we have this object right here, Apple company, and Apple has a name and an array of employee objects. Company, employees, an array of employees. Okay, and then we have employees, name and company. Okay, and of course we've set our company to we var y, because the company object, the main company object, which we have right here, and we're using it to initialize the employee. This, in this situation, this is the parent. Okay, because it's being used to initialize both of these. Okay, this the company is being used to initialize it, and so when we run this, company Apple is deinitialized, and as a result, the employee 1 and 2 are deinitialized. Now here's something: if you never deinitialize Apple, right? If you never set it to nil, guess what? Employee 1 or 2 can never be released. There's a strong reference. Okay? Employee 1 or 2 are now, they're stuck in memory. All 3 are stuck in memory. It is because that we set Apple to nil that employee 1 and 2 can be released from memory. Okay? So which is the parent? Apple's the parent. Which are the children? Employee 1 and 2. So this, and again, in order to validate whether something has been released from memory, right, from your automatic reference count, you must use our deinit. Okay? I know that in the past I've had problems understanding reference counting and strong references and weak references, and who's the owning object as well as the child object, right? And every explanation I've seen online actually sucks. I think this is probably the best explanation you're going to find online. But anyway, on to the next.